Hi guys, welcome to this second video of the blockchain series. So last time we had a look at how the blockchain technology works and its application to cryptocurrencies. And this is really important to start with the basics in order to understand how a network without central authority can be secured. This time we'll have a look at where the value of blockchain really lies for companies like Ringier, which is in the second generation of blockchain with smart contracts and token economies. And finally have a quick look at what a technology like this one could mean for Ringier. So let's start with Ethereum and smart contracts. Ethereum was created in the mind of a 19-year-old Russian-Canadian developer called Vitalik Buterin. He created the platform in 2015, and it is considered like the first platform of the second generation of blockchain technology. What changes in Ethereum compared to a network like Bitcoin, for instance, is that Ethereum was designed not only for transactions, but mostly to allow anyone to easily build and run applications on top of the Ethereum blockchain. And make no mistake, Ethereum and second generation blockchain is where the value of blockchain now is. The Ethereum platform's capitalization is roughly 7 times the capitalization of the Bitcoin network. Why is Ethereum so peculiar? Well, it is because it combines a cryptocurrency, Ether, with what we call the Ethereum virtual machine, which is a virtual machine that allows to run code directly on the blockchain. For the techies, it means that you can use Ethereum as your backend instead of an AWS server, for instance. For the non-techies, it means that you can write what we call smart contracts, which are basically computer programs that are stored on the Ethereum blockchain and automatically execute the terms of a contract. They are basically contracts written as code. And because they are stored on the blockchain and directly executed from a decentralized network of computers, they present several advantages. First, there is no single point of failure. On the contrary to a traditional application, you can have a problem of a server going down, for instance, as the backend is decentralized. Second, it is auditable. Just like you can see the transactions that happened on the blockchain, you can see the code, the smart contracts that are stored on the network. And finally, and most importantly, it is self-enforcing. Writing a contract in the real world, you need to trust the other person to hold up their end of the bargain. If you're renting an apartment and giving a deposit, you trust the other person to give it back to you at the end of the renting period. Sometimes it doesn't happen and you have legal hurdles to go through. If you're renting a banner on a website, you expect them to actually place your image on their website at the spot that was agreed upon. Sometimes this doesn't happen. With smart contracts stored on the blockchain, this situation cannot happen. As soon as a smart contract is encrypted into a block, it will execute if all of the conditions are met, because all of the conditions of the contracts are written as code. And code doesn't rely on human emotions. It will execute no matter what. And this has huge potential for the cooperation between organizations Anything that you can conceive of as a supply chain, blockchain can greatly improve because it is providing a shared database that is trusted by all different parties. It is important to note at this stage that Ethereum is not your only option. Other platforms have seen the day, like Hyperledger and Corda. You also don't need to create a blockchain application where the contracts are available to everyone, where everybody can see the code. You can create a private blockchain where only allowed users can join the network. You can create a permissioned blockchain where only allowed users can write new information. Walmart and IBM have such projects of private permission blockchain in order to follow the containers of food over time throughout the whole supply chain. Because it provides a common database to all of the actors in the network that is entirely secured and trustable, it avoids inefficiencies like copying the same database several times, and provide a system where ownership and responsibility for a certain container can be simply transferred using smart contracts. This technology has different applications in our business models. For instance, it allows you to create a verified history of items and having trustable contracts. In marketplaces, for instance, in real estate, some actors saw that there were problems with double sell of the land, especially when people living abroad were buying land in another country. Sometimes they arrive only to find out that the land had already been sold to another person before them, because there is no shared database to access. Seeing this, a company in Kenya called Land Lay By has created a land registry on the blockchain that stores information like land ownership, transactional information, nature of the land, or location. And real estate sale through blockchain is already a reality. The owner of TechCrunch, for instance, was the first one to buy real estate in December 2017 using blockchain technology. Blockchain can also allow you to create a history for used car. It is difficult to buy a used car because you can never trust that the former proprietary gives you valid information on what happened to the car before. You can store on the blockchain information on the model, on servicing history, photos of the vehicle, connect the odometer with a smart odometer. We'll see the potential of blockchain for the IoT, the Internet of Things, in a little bit. You can connect it to different databases like database of stolen vehicles. And the more services you plug to this verified history of cars, and the more valuable a tool you have. You can use the blockchain to store information about the reputations of buyers and sellers on classified platforms. What is interesting is that this kind of tool, because it runs on a blockchain that is platform agnostic, can be used by any classified platforms. So you have a reputation system that is portable, that can store information about sales that happened on eBay, on Piggyami, or on any other classified platform. Group that information in order to build a global reputation score for all buyers and sellers. Once again, the more platforms use this kind of tools, the more valuable they get. Blockchain allows you to create a new layer of internet protocols, just like IMAP or HTTP, that anybody can use and bring value to the entire ecosystem. Verified history of items can also be used for content. You can create immutable timestamps for content and store them on the blockchain in order to know who published what piece of content first and easily license that content afterwards. This is seen as the ultimate solution to monetizing music or films by sharing the original files on a blockchain to facilitate licensing further down the chain. All in all, smart contracts and shared ledgers allow to enable cooperation and create tools that work seamlessly cross-platform and cross-industries, which is a hugely powerful thing to do. It is reimagining how companies can work together. Blockchain is also a really powerful platform for the Internet of Things, because for now your smart fridge cannot talk to your smart computer, to your smart car, to your smart baggage. Maybe your Apple computer can talk to your Apple virtual assistant, but this is limited to the constructor. What the Internet of Things needs is a device-agnostic, platform-agnostic, constructor-agnostic platform where code can be stored and define how all of the different devices can interact together. This is exactly what blockchain can achieve. One early application of the Internet of Things in our business models using blockchain is for car rental. A startup called Helbiz wants to disrupt the entire ecosystem by allowing anyone to list their cars on their platform for rental and control the access through a smart lock that obeys a smart contract stored on the blockchain. So if someone wants to rent their car using this system, first, like on any platform, they need to list their car by entering information on price, on availability, on the model of the car. They can choose who can rent their cars, at what age, what insurance status they need to have. And then they ask the Helbiz teams or their partners to install a smart lock on their cars that is going to control the ignition of the engine. And that's it. Their car is ready for rental. If someone wants to rent this car, like on any rental platform, they are going to browse the different available cars depending on their criteria, choose the one they are interested in. They're going to book the car with their fingerprint or Face ID, which is a very secure solution compared to a password, for instance, and then use the Helbiz app in order to unlock the smart lock and be able to use the car. And then they are simply going to drive. Helbiz just disintermediated car rental companies. You don't need a car rental company anymore. You can now rent your car when you are at work without ever leaving the room. Of course, the technology of smart contract is not perfect. Just like transactions can't be cancelled on the Bitcoin network, smart contracts cannot be modified or cancelled once they have been entered in a block on the Ethereum blockchain. Smart contracts also don't deal well with uncertainty. You need to plan for everything that might happen when you are writing the contract, because you will not have the opportunity to modify it or add clauses once the contract is live on the blockchain. One of the most famous failures of a startup using smart contracts is the story of the DAO. The DAO wanted to create an investment fund whose functioning was entirely controlled by smart contracts and decentralized. They had the most successful crowdfunding campaign ever and managed to raise over 168 million. 2 months after they were created, though, 70 millions were drained from the accounts because there was a weakness in a smart contract that was allowing for the money to be stolen. So smart contracts still, despite their weaknesses, allow to automate processes cross platforms and enable the Internet of Things. But you have to be careful with them. The most powerful use of smart contracts, though, deserved its own part in this video, and that is the creation of token and token economies. Tokens are simply defined as units of value. It can be any unit of value. For instance, the golden stars that you were getting at school for doing good homework. It is something that has no real value in the real world. It has no value for adults, but for the children, it has an agreed upon value, and it will help them motivate certain behaviors. What platforms like ethereum allow you to do is to create golden stars that you can exchange for real money. I bet some of you would have done better at school. All you need to do in order to create such a token is to create a smart contract that says, for 3 ethereum, you get 12 of my token. You just created a new value system, and that is really powerful. Because just like Golden Star, you can use this in order to incentivize value-generating behaviors inside of your app. Steemit, for instance, is a company that has created a social media that rewards users for engagement with tokens that you can then exchange against real money. Any post or comment that gains traction is going to bring a reward to the user who posted it. And so far, they have already distributed the equivalent of $22 million. SOMA, short for social marketplaces, realized that marketplaces were bleeding users to Facebook, and they thought that maybe marketplaces need a social component, so they created a platform that rewards users for likes and shares, but also started rewarding users for actions like acting as an escrow or mediator for a deal, or doing peer-to-peer marketing. On this platform, you can ask a user with influence to promote your product, and they will be rewarded in token for it. Rex, a real estate listing classified company, saw several problems on real estate classifieds that they thought could be solved by the blockchain. They saw a lack of trust in their database, no incentive to list, listings that were not updated. In order to improve trust, they decentralized the database and stored it in a completely transparent manner on the blockchain. And they started rewarding users for listings and updates to the listings, which means that their moderators don't need to do this task anymore. They just outsource part of their processes to their users and lowering their running costs. A jobs classified called Higher Match started rewarding users for recommending candidates. This is a model that can work in many industries. In journalism, Civil is a startup that wants to create a platform for high quality journalism, and this is really important in an era of fake news. What Civil did is that they created a community-based approval process to see who was authorized to publish on their platform. The publishers who manage to get into the platform are rewarded by getting easy opportunities of monetization because Civil, for instance, facilitates the giving tips to newsrooms or establishing subscription models. They store the content on a blockchain, which means that it can't be taken down by powerful organization or politics. How the application process works is really interesting. First, a newsroom applies to the platform by depositing tokens. They make a bid in order to be part of the platform. If nobody challenges that application after a few weeks, the application is accepted and the newsroom can publish on Civil. However, if the application is challenged by any of the members of the community, there's going to be a vote. If the majority of the Civil community sides with the newsroom and wants to allow them to publish on the platform, the newsroom and the community that sided with them is going to get the tokens of the person who challenged the application. If the community sides with the challenger and the community that voted with him, that agreed with him that such a newsroom should not be allowed on Civil, will share the tokens deposited by the newsroom, and the newsroom will see its application rejected. What Civil did here is completely outsource the moderation of who is accepted on the platform, creating a complex economy to see who is deserving of being rewarded as a high-quality newsroom. So tokens allow companies to delegate tasks like moderation of marketing to users, which allow them in turn to decrease their running costs. A second thing that tokens can allow you to do is to give value to intangible assets which have a value that is difficult to quantify. Because currencies today, and even cryptocurrencies, can only pay for goods and services, but there is a certain number of assets which do have values, but that we can't quantify, like social capital, cultural capital, environmental capital, user attention, or data. That is somewhere where crypto tokens can help. Let's take the example of data, for instance. Facebook and Google have created empires by monetizing data of users. And they don't need to pay for this data because there is no agreed upon value for user data. The value of this intangible asset depends on your negotiation skills, basically. By creating a token which value is regulated solely by offer and demand, you can solve this problem and create a fairer economy to all of the actors in the system. It would mean that users could own their data by storing them on the blockchain and being the only ones that have the key to unlock the data. It means they could lock the access to Facebook or Google, for instance, completely unlock access to research organization to fight cancer, for instance, or unlock access against tokens to the organization they choose. With tokens, you can also create new monetization opportunities for publishers, and that is what a company called Brave Browser tries to do. Brave Browser has been created by the inventor of the JavaScript language and a co-founder of Mozilla, so pretty serious project. And it has two missions: giving users an ads-free, tracker-free browser, and facilitating the monetization of content for publishers. How it facilitates monetization is that it suggests to users to buy tokens and establish a monthly budget that will be redistributed to all of the websites they visit. The user can give his budget, and the money will be distributed depending on time spent on page. If a user wants to reward a certain publisher more or less, he can also choose to adjust the settings himself. We've seen some really serious publishers register on the platform because it is a very low-risk initiative for publishers. The Guardian, for instance, is one such organization. All in all, what tokens allow you to do is to create microeconomies within your app to reward behaviors that are value generating and give value to intangible assets. How it works is the startup simply creates the token out of nowhere, creates this new unit of value, and they're going to release it through what we call an ICO. ICO stands for Initial Coin Offering because its function is pretty similar to an IPO. But an ICO is basically crowdfunding on steroid because on the contrary to an IPO, you don't need to be a registered investor in order to participate to the campaign. So just like an IPO, the startup founders are going to retain part of the tokens, and investors are going to buy tokens as shares, betting on the future success of the company. But on the contrary to an IPO, tokens can also be used inside the platform in order to use the service, buy and sell items within the platform with token. And positive behaviors, value-generating behaviors, will also be rewarded with the same tokens. And just like any currency in the world, just like the dollar or the euro, the more tokens are used and the more value they gain. And because of this, you create an ecosystem where the value is distributed to all of the actors in the system. Because the tokens are worth more money, it will mean that value-generating behaviors are going to be rewarded comparatively with more value. The tokens that investors bought will be worth more, and so will the tokens that have been retained by the startup founders. So for the first time, you have an ecosystem where the goal of the founders, of the investors, and of the users are fully aligned, and this is a hugely powerful thing. So, how easy is it to create a token, really? Well, surprisingly easy, to be fair. New tools like Token Factory let you create a token in about 30 seconds if you already have the infrastructure in place. There's over 36,000 tokens already, different kinds of tokens that are listed on websites like Etherscan. And in 2017, startups raised over $4 billion using the ICO process. This technology is already there. What are we doing? Why are we not investing in all of those ICOs? Why are we not creating our own token right now? Well, we've first seen that implementing smart contracts is a very difficult thing to do. Creating a microeconomy is a really difficult thing to do. And as for investing in other companies' tokens, there is a dark side to the token economy because it is barely regulated, which means that we've seen in 2017, where most ICOs happen, a lot of scams. People writing a really nice white paper, creating a really nice landing page, and promising to solve the world's problem with their product and their tokens, releasing those tokens with an ICO, and then running with the money. This happened a surprising amount of times, so much so that it is estimated that in 2017, around 9 million a day were lost in cryptocurrency scams. So what does this all mean? How do we make sense of this complexity? Well, I think the situation is pretty well summarized by this quote from the head of blockchain efforts at Microsoft. If the person that is paid to analyze blockchain at Microsoft tells you that they don't know where it's going to matter or how it's going to matter, something is pretty clear. Nobody really knows. Blockchain is at the highest of its hype right now, and we are still very far from achieving productivity. So far, only 1% of CIOs have already invested or implemented blockchain technology, and only few are planning to do it in the next months or years. So, blockchain technology presents different advantages. It allows you to create a transparent yet anonymized ledger that is not controlled by any entity, that is secured through cryptography and consensus. It allows you to create smart contracts and token economies, and that has huge applications in our business models like content ownership or censor-proof and participative platforms or monetization of content. In marketplaces, it can help us create verified histories of listings, create cross-platform reputation tools, enable the sharing economy and the IoT, and allow for user-powered platforms. But we need to acknowledge that not everything is very positive about blockchain technologies. For marketplaces, the technology can represent a new threat, as it is a tool for disintermediation. And after all, we are intermediaries. Maybe in the future, classifieds platform will need to find new ways to create values for users that don't involve creating trust, like creating a community, for instance, or reducing their running cost by implicating user and their processes. Then there is some flaws that are inherent to the technologies. Crypto assets are very volatile because only based on offer and demand and very little regulated. There is a cost of storage of the blockchain, still a huge consumption of electricity for proof of work, even if we are finding other ways to secure blockchains like proof of burn, of stake, or elapsed time. And transaction and smart contracts can't be cancelled, which means that you need to get very complex tasks right the first time. All in all, people tend to underestimate the complexity of implementing a blockchain solution. And for a lot of use cases, you might not even need a blockchain, because remember that at its heart, blockchain is simply a database. Do you really need a database that is this complex? There are several platforms and frameworks nowadays that allow you to consider this question and find the right answer, like the one here. So, what are the next steps? What can you do right now to get ready for this technology? Well, first, take a deep breath, keep calm. Gartner doesn't predict any big return on blockchain technology before 2025. They created a report on the most impactful technology in the next 5 years, and blockchain wasn't even included. So we have a little bit of time to get ready, and this time will also give countries the opportunity to put regulation in place. So far, any company that creates a blockchain product might see its regulation change completely and have to adapt. But still, keep an eye out for relevant use cases in our business models. You can share and find insights on the Ringier International Slack, for instance. Don't hesitate to create this base of knowledge and share it with the whole organization. We can look for low-risk initiatives to join. For instance, have a look at the possibilities to join platforms like Brave or Civil that don't require a big investment for brands, but might provide some insights on the ins and outs of being part of a blockchain project. We can clean our databases in order to simplify potential implementation of blockchain products and get better at understanding code if we know that contracts in the future will be written as code stored on the blockchain. All in all, this is a very new technology, and it is going to take time for it to reach its full potential. But in the future, it could lead us in a society where people own their data, where content is easily monetizable, where the Internet of Things interact flawlessly with other devices, where organizations are fully enabled to cooperate in a much more productive way than they do today, where companies can implicate their users and integrate them to their processes to commonly share value. In the future, it could lead us in a society where people assemble not based on hierarchy in an organization, but around common values and a common goal of increasing the value of tokens that they all care about. The road is still long to blockchain's full potential, but who knows where it might lead us. And with this, that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't hesitate to ask any question you may have on the Ringier International Slack. Don't hesitate to share any knowledge that you have of blockchain products in our business models. I'm sure a lot of people will be interested. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Bye.